So there.
So there.
So there.
So there.
Let me know your thoughts.
So there.
So there.
So there.
Let me know your thoughts.
Why do you keep saying let us know your thoughts?
Let me know your thoughts to me is a nice lead-in for So there. So there.
Welcome to So There. In case you forgot, a podcast about marketing, inexplicable human behavior, and whatever else comes to mind.
I'm Tom Karamitis along with Gary Doyle. And Gary works, Gary's employed.
Tom is too, but he's just not saying where.
So I work for the government.
Some call me the Reverend Chicken La Holmes. Others call me Plato Foofus. But yes, I am Gary Doyle of the Kramer Crassalt, as it's known on Facebook. All right, so let's get started. I have a topic to talk about today that may prove challenging to Tom Karamitis and you, the listener. And that is lazy songwriting lyrics. All right. So we all know bad songwriting lyrics. We listen to those every day and think, gosh, that's really not very good. But there's a special subset of lyrics that are lazy, right? If they just put in a little more effort into them, that you could have had something, but it's just kind of lazy. And I'd like to cite a few examples. And for our younger listeners of So There, and I think there are many, there's probably 3 or 4, may not be familiar with all these songs, but that's why God invented iTunes and Spotify to go look them up. But a few examples of lazy lyric writing. So there's a group called Chicago, and they have a song, one of their synth-driven power ballads, called "You're the Inspiration." And there's a part of the song where I don't know if I should sing the chorus. I'll just cite the lyrics. So the chorus goes, "You're the meaning in my life. You're the inspiration. You bring feeling to my life. You're the inspiration. You're the meaning of my life, and you bring meaning to my life." Are they not the same? Could the writer not have tried to differentiate a little bit between those two? You're the meaning of my life. You bring meaning to my life. Lazy. Am I right? Okay. Number 2. Getting a little obscure here, but a song that Tom Karamitis and I are both very fond of called "Mother" by a singer named Glenn Danzig. And there's a line in the chorus that says, "Mother, tell your children not to walk my way. Tell your children not to hear my words, what they mean, what they say, Mother." What is the difference between my words, what they mean, what they say? Is there a difference between what they mean and what they say? That would seem to be the same thing. And then perhaps, and I'll wrap this up with perhaps the laziest music lyric of all time, is the Steve Miller song "Abracadabra." Abracadabra, I wanna reach out and grab you. Abracadabra. So the chorus goes, "Abracadabra, I'm going to reach out and grab you. Abracadabra. Abracadabra." So in the 4th line, he could have tried something else that rhymed with cadabra, but he just chose to say abracadabra again. Those are lazy songwriting lyrics, my friend. Let me know your thoughts.
Gary Doyle, always his own best audience. This is a good topic, but I feel like I'm at a bit of a disadvantage. I know out of our thousands and thousands of subscribers, many of them are under the age of 30. So they will, as Gary pointed out, probably never have heard of some of these artists. But I will give you 2 examples of things that always struck me as either under the heading of lazy lyric writing. One of my all-time favorite songs was a Roberta Flack song called "Killing Me Softly." In fact, this was won the Grammy Award for Song of the Year and whenever it was written recorded in the early 70s. It's a great song. I suggest you listen to it. It's basically it's written from the perspective of somebody who is watching Don McLean perform. And it's a great song, and the verses are just beautifully crafted. But they got to the last verse, and it's like the writer just ran out of things to say, and kind of ended up just compromising by saying,
and he just kept on singing clear and strong.
Whereas all the other verses were kind of building on this beautiful story, and then this was just, to me, it was just kind of a throwaway. So if Tom Karamitis ever starts listening to music that was recorded after 1978, I'll be sure to come back and revisit this topic in a new feature you'll hear about later called So There Redux. Let me know your thoughts.
Well, I think we've lost pretty much all the listeners that we had under 30 with that selection of music. We're working on setting up a hotline where viewers and listeners can call in and leave their own comments on our podcast, but that's not operable yet. That's in beta. But if we did that, then perhaps our younger listeners could submit something, as Tom Karamitis said, that was written after 1972.
All right, before I move on to the next topic, I would like to point out Gary Doyle and I have both occasionally used the word viewers when we refer to people listening to the podcast. And at first I thought, yeah, that's obviously a mistake. This is just an audio thing. However, our oddly hypnotic logo, all right, perhaps can be something that you, the listener, just stares at, all right, staring at it for the entire 22 minutes, imagining, is that guy Mr. Shout, or whatever we call him, is that Gary or Tom? All right. Right now it's Tom. So close your eyes or stare at Mr. Shout as I take you through our next topic, which is I think this is thought-provoking for all of you folks out there who have ever worked in an office. I want to quickly trace for you the progression of office relationships, and I don't mean romantic office relationships. I mean the building of friendships, and there are three stages of these relationships, and there are specific things that happen at each stage which define them. And those three stages are work acquaintance, all right, work friend, and finally friend. And I'm going to kind of lay this out for you. A work acquaintance is somebody that you say hi to in the hall. You pass and you say hi. You give a knowing nod, a smile, a wink. You greet them in a meeting. You know them. You know their name. All right. They are a work acquaintance. All right. You may reach a point with work acquaintances where you find you have little sidebar conversations with them. All right. Maybe you even confide in this person. All right. At that point, once you start confiding in this person, all right, they have become a work friend. This is an important subset of your work relationships. Work friends are the people that you worry about, right? When bad things happen at work, you ask them about their lives. They are work friends, but they will remain work friends probably forever, unless you take the giant step, and I do mean a giant step, of doing something social with them that has nothing to do with work, okay? That means you're going to play golf, you're going to go out to dinner, you're going to go to a game together, and it's not part of some work function or somebody getting a bunch of people together for an after-work party. That's not friends. That's still work friends. But friends means you've crossed the Rubicon, all right? Gary Doyle and I went through all those stages, and at the moment, we consider ourselves friends. All right, because we've done social, non-career, non-work-related activities together. An important distinction. I think you all should think about your relationships at the office and spend half the day today putting people down in one of those three categories. Let me know your thoughts.
I'm struggling to come to grips with this topic because nobody at work really likes me. I don't have any friends. My ladder up the friendship ladder that Tom Karamitis described is a little different. A work friend, a work acquaintance, agree is somebody that you say hi to, maybe in passing, in the office and so forth, and maybe talk to them at a party. A work friend is somebody that you spend more quality time with and might spend 10 or 15 minutes talking to about work and your clients and you enjoy their company. But it doesn't get to the level of, as Tom Karamitis described, it doesn't get to a deeper level than that, a work friend. But a friend is everything that Tom Karamitis described, and is possible to get there. As I said, I'm struggling to come to grips with this a little bit because very few people at work like me. But yes, I think Tom Karamitis has made a good point here, and Tom Karamitis' friendship and mine has transcended those stages, has gone through those stages. We used to argue about music and Fruitopia commercials, and Tom would bring in a track by Keith Emerson of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I didn't like it. That caused a problem. This is a true story, by the way. And so we had our work issues, and now I think we're friends making this podcast, and so there.
I would like to, as a postscript on this one, I'd like to point out also that you can also go backwards. I don't think you can go all the way back to work acquaintance, although I guess you could theoretically. But I've had times in my life and career where I did something social with somebody from work, and it was a one-off. It just didn't click. It didn't happen. So then we kind of both, sadly, with heads down, realized that we've redefined and gone back to work friends, and that was okay. So there.
And now we're going to introduce a returning segment to So There, and a new one as well. Let's talk about the new one first. These are things that we hope to return to every week, and we're calling this So There Redux. And this is going to be addendums to things that we talked about in past podcasts, kind of further developments, further instances that broaden our understanding of this issue.
And this will be also, you'll find, now hang on to your seats, the format's going to change a little bit because Gary and I will potentially respond to each other like a conversation in this one.
We're not used to that because our method of communication is leaving voicemails for each other, so this is making us a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, and to that point, if we actually make eye contact with each other, it throws us off completely. We completely lose our train of thought.
We're both looking at the Snowball right now, which, as a reminder, is our microphone that we use in the studio, the Snowball.
Yes. I've also freshened my breath this morning before Gary came in.
I've not. A couple podcasts ago, we talked about what Tom Karamitis introduced as the sachet maneuver, and that's the maneuver where when you're leaving the train doors, as you exit the train doors, somebody kind of slides through the heavy doors without kind of holding it open for you, which we both found loathsome and talked about it in great detail. But the other day, I was walking through the heavy doors exiting the train station, and a woman in front of me pulled off the sachet maneuver with not one, but two doors. So both doors closed on her, accordion style, and she managed to sachet through both of them, letting them both, land on me. And I found this noteworthy for a couple of reasons. One is that it was an extraordinary kind of application of the sachet maneuver, but the other was it struck me that this behavior still happened after we talked about it on our podcast. I think Tom Karamitis and I both thought it had entered the popular culture, the popular vernacular, to not attempt the sachet maneuver, and yet somebody did it, which I found really surprising.
Yeah, and to that point, we have, I imagine, a tremendous listenership. I think we're up to 6.5 million subscribers. And now, by the way, now that we're on episode 3, which this is, I think we can start talking box set. All right. Now, my
with outtakes and bloopers
and lots of extra content.
And right,
Gary
exactly.
wants to take this podcast to Facebook Live at some point. So hold on to your hats. That's down the road at some point.
Right, we're throwing a lot at you right now. So
I will. What I will add to Redux is we had a discussion last time about health club observations and health club irritants. Last night, I actually encountered a new one, which was an entirely new phenomenon. And maybe Gary Doyle wants to weigh in on this, and that is the dynamic that happens. It's especially with younger people, with people in their late teens, early 20s, when a guy and his obvious girlfriend are working out together. That whole testosterone issue that guys have in general at health clubs gets ramped up exponentially when they're working out in the presence of their girlfriend. All right, it's obnoxious. There's a lot of primping and posing, and I would just love to see an example where a guy is showing his girlfriend how to use a piece of equipment, and then she's able to actually lift a lot more weight on it than he is, because I just think that would just tear it all apart.
Yeah. Men do things in the presence of women to prove their manhood. I once got my nose broken in a fight in college by a man who was with his girlfriend, and I made the mistake of challenging him. And I still have a little bit of a bent nose if you look closely at my nose.
We need to do Facebook Live.
Yeah, well, Tom Carmichael is looking at me a little bit too closely now. It's making me uncomfortable.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. So this is another recurring segment called I Wonder Why, and this is our questions as to why human beings do the things that they do.
I wonder why police crossing guards are always in a foul mood. They're usually overweight, but more importantly, they're almost always in a really bad mood. I imagine it's because that they're that week bottom of the totem pole. This is the assignment nobody wanted. Although I think in a lot of ways, crossing guard duty's not that bad. You know, I mean, you're out from behind the desk, you're outside if it's a nice day, but they always seem to be, God forbid you misinterpret their little hand direction when you're coming out of the parking lot. They just bark at you, and they're always in a foul mood. I'm terrified of them.
I wonder why professional athletes never wear their jersey in airports or anywhere else. So you see people in airports, men in airports, wearing jerseys, football jerseys, but you never see athletes wearing them, and that's their uniform. You know, that's what they wear to work, and I'm surprised that when they're traveling or, you know, in their leisure time, they don't wear jerseys because that's what they wear in their job. So I wonder why that is.
I wonder why people still have the need to say God bless you when you sneeze. Now, when I was a kid, the urban legend with God bless you was that, and all the 7-year-olds I was with all believed it, including myself, that it's the closest you ever come to death in a normal day. It's when you sneeze, supposedly. So that's why people say God bless you. But at this point, there's no other thing that you do that would elicit that kind of response. And I think God bless you should be retired.
Should people say God bless you when you pass wind? I can.
Well, that's a different thing, because people rarely acknowledge the passing wind, right? Even though everybody knows who did it. If you're in an elevator, you know.
That is true. That could be a topic of a whole other podcast. Actually, what I heard about God bless you was it was used to be believed that when a person sneezed, that was a portal for evil spirits to enter their body when they would sneeze. It was believed that it would be an opening for evil spirits into their bodies. So when people sneeze, somebody would say, God bless you, to ward off those evil spirits.
I'll give you another hypothesis, which could be related to that, is that, perhaps God bless you came up in the days of medieval medicine, and a sneeze would portend an infection, which in those days perhaps could be fatal, right? Those are the days of bloodletting and all that kind of stuff. So, but I still say that, 500 years later, maybe it's time to retire. God bless you. So I'll be the first rude person that stares at you if you sneeze in my presence, just gives you a withering look, and I won't say anything.
Thus wraps another episode of So There. We'd like to thank our engineer John Bender, our artist Jim Furr, our
studio engineer, Marco Morales.
And you, the listener
All
for
6.5 million of you.
all 6.5 million of you for listening, and more than that, enduring.
So until next time.
So there.